How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Tombstone's Takes. I am Tombstone, and I love to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and interesting about books. And today, I'm going to be talking about Philip K. Dick's classic, Ubik. What is Ubik about, you ask? Well, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, this is what I'd say. I'd say that Ubik is about a team of anti-psychics who, when their teammate is injured, needs to find an aerosol spray can of a product called Ubik in order to keep their teammate mostly dead instead of all dead, which means he's partially alive in a frozen cryogenic cold pack where you can access his consciousness. Don't worry, time is involved in this too. But that's what it's about. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Now, there's a lot to chew on in that statement, and this book is a wild ride, so sit back. Let's discuss it. If spoilers happen, they happen. So if you want spoiler-free, bump out now. The story mainly follows Glenn Runsiter, who's the CEO of Runsiter and Associates, and they're a prudence organization. A prudence organization is an organization that has anti-psychics. They're out to stop the telepaths and the precognitives from doing evil things to you. Now, this book takes place in the future from when it was written. This book was written in 1968, 1969, and the future then is 1992. But the book also follows Joe Chip, who is one of Glenn Runsiter's employees. Now, Glenn and Joe and their team of inertials, who are people that can dampen the powers of the telepaths and the precognitives, go to the moon because they think that there's a game afoot there, and they're ambushed. Glenn is injured, and as they're injured, as they're trying to get Glenn to a moratorium, a place where he can be put into a cryogenic type state and they can still access his conscious because he's mostly dead, not all dead, they start to see that weird things are happening, like time is regressing. So money is changing. A model of a car could be right next to you and it could change from one model to another model in time. It's weird, it's fun, it's trippy, it's hallucinatory, it's drug-induced, it's all those buzzwords. But it's a lot of fun. Those of you who have read this book know that we could discuss this book for days. So, what are we going to discuss? What would you do if you lived in a world where you had to put a quarter into your refrigerator every time you wanted to open the refrigerator door because it was telling you, you got to pay me, I'm a vending machine? What would happen if your front door to your apartment or your house was like, that's 10 cents. You got to pay me the 10 cents in order to open your door. You got to have payments for wait, we already have payments for everything. Was PKD a profit? Okay, so what would you do if you ran a company like Glenn Runsiter did, but in order to make good decisions about what to do, you would have to visit your late wife who's mostly dead, but she's in one of those cryogenic states, but in order to make a decision, you had to run it by her. So you had to go to the moratorium, get on a microphone, and talk to her consciousness while she's in this cold pack. What would you do? What would you do if time started to regress and you started to slip back in time moment by moment? Money was changing, cars were changing, everything was changing, and you didn't know why. What would you do if you met a girl who could go back in time and change it? And then one day she tells you, you know what? We were married for a night and I didn't really like it, so I went back and I changed it, but I kept the ring. And then to make matters worse, what would happen if you were really wanting to get with another woman? And, well, as time was slipping back into the past, You find her in your closet, dead and shriveled, and her body is just nasty, and there's no way that you could get her into that cold pack cryogenic state so that you could talk to your consciousness, and she had just told you that she wanted you the night before. What would you do if you started receiving messages being like, hey, you're mostly dead? And this message was from your boss, but you had watched your boss become mostly dead, and you're like, no, you're mostly dead. And he's like, nah, it's you. And you're like, look, either way, I'm losing time here because I'm slipping back in time, and I feel like I'm gonna die because I opened my closet and there was that chick that I loved. And what would you do if in those messages people were like, use Ubik, but not the topical skin cream stuff or the lip balm. Use the aerosol spray can because that's what's gonna keep you mostly dead, or it's gonna help reverse time. What would you do if there were commercials everywhere and everything was Ubik? Your beer was Ubik. Your car on the lot was Ubik. Hair cream or gel was Ubik. Your shampoo was Ubik. What would you do? I mean, you already have to pay a quarter or a dime or money just to get into your fridge. Man, they just want you to buy Ubik. Okay, there were some spoilers there. Yeah, there were. But hopefully it shows you just what a wild ride this book is. But hopefully it also shows you how big on concepts and ideas and social commentary this book is. Glenn Runsiter and Joe Chip, who are the characters that you spend the most time for, at first they seem more like caricatures of the big business CEO type who is nothing but business and thinks less of regular people. And Joe Chip is a down on his luck, never has the right kind of money, in debt employee who has to borrow money from everybody in order to run his life. Doesn't seem like he can do it very well, but as you start to see, he might have a few more brains in his head than you at first think. This isn't a character-driven story. You just get enough of the caricature at first to get you into the narrative, and then as things start to happen, they do become a little bit better for those two characters. Everybody else is just kind of there, but the interplay of the plot and the story and the doubt that Philip K. Dick instills in you as you read keep you invested in this tale. And as you're invested in this tale, you also start to ask questions, philosophical questions about life, death, the afterlife, the nature of God, the nature of two gods, the nature of whether or not there's a positive afterlife and a negative afterlife, whether or not reality is real. And these are things that the mind trap, it's a mind trap, it's all a mind trap. And you're gonna spin your wheels and keep spinning and keep spinning and keep spinning and being like, well, if this is this, then this is the, you know the meme. So PKD, yeah, man, that guy, he knows how to instill doubt in your narrative. And that's what's gonna keep you there. Yes, it's ambiguous at the end, but it's so well done. What are some of the kinds of questions you may really ask when you get done with this tale? Who is Jory, and who or what does he represent? Who is Ella Runsiter, and who or what does she represent? Do they represent the binary of God and the devil? Is there an antagonist to this story? And if so, who? Who is the person that's playing out? Yeah, I'm not going to go there. Does time exist in the afterlife? Is there an afterlife? And if so, can you be kept alive by eating the consciousnesses? The consciousness is of other people? Does God use capitalism as an ends to a mean? What does money represent in our society? We all know what it represents. In all seriousness, this book was fun. I had a fantastic time. I do have a lot of questions about the representations that Philip K. Dick used in the story. He's obviously making a social commentary while at the same time asking questions about big ideas. Now, for some people, the first few pages, there might be some pacing issues there before you really get into the tale. And you have to do the normal sci-fi thing and wait around for a minute to decipher or understand what some of the terminology really is. But other than that, I'm going to give this 5 tombstones. I loved it. But tell me, what were some of the questions that you had as you read it, that you've pondered and that have lingered with you after you've read this story? I want to know what kinds of philosophical ideas that really hit you and stayed with you and that you continue to question and discuss with your friends after you've read this one. Let me know in the comments below. This has been Tombstone's Takes. If you like what I do, give me a subscribe. We'll talk to you later.